An incredible transformation, how a cold billionaire discovered life-changing love in 30 days. Jake Morgan stood in the ruins of what had once been the vibrant heart of his town. As a billionaire tycoon, he thrived on cold calculations, on profits measured in dollars rather than smiles. But standing there, watching floodwaters swallow the small businesses he had long ignored, something inside him began to stir. This wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a chilling reminder of how disconnected he had become from the very community he lived in. He remembered his childhood warm afternoons spent running through the local park, laughter ringing in the air. Where had that boy gone? In his pursuit of power, he had lost sight of everything that truly mattered. Now, he felt an unsettling emptiness, a void that no amount of wealth could fill. With the flood ravaging the charming town, Jake saw a chance to make an impact, a chance to regain his humanity and perhaps connect with people once more, even if tinged with self-interest. But as he approached the small town gathering, excitement filled the air, yet Jake felt like an outsider. Townspeople exchanged wary glances, their whispers echoing the resentment they held for the man who symbolized greed and ambition. They'd seen enough of billionaires coming in with grand promises only to vanish when the opportunity faded. They didn't want a savior, they wanted someone who understood their struggles. "Who do you think you are?" A fiery voice cut through the murmurs, piercing his rehearsed confidence. It was Emma, a single mother and owner of the local bookstore that held the memories of generations. "You come here with your big ideas while we fight to keep our community alive. You're not welcome." Her challenge stung like ice water on a blistering day, yet something about her determination captivated him. "You think I'm here just for the optics?" he declared, a touch too defensively. "I want to launch a relief effort." But their exchange only fueled the hostility around them. Yet, behind her anger, Jake saw passion. There was something striking about the way she fought for her place and the community that had given her family everything. With each encounter, he felt his walls chipping away, and Jake began to listen, truly listen, to the stories woven into the foundation of their lives. He met a pair of elderly women who shared tales of love and loss over coffee. He watched kids play with makeshift toys, laughter bubbling through his heavy heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But just when he thought he had earned their trust, Jake's past resurfaced. Reports revealed his business deals that had hurt local entrepreneurs, buildings collapsing under debts that he turned a blind eye to. The betrayal landed like a hammer, splintering their nascent connection. Everything was on the line. As doubts wrapped around him like a fog, Jake had a choice: retreat back to the cold safety of his empire or step into the warmth of vulnerability and connection. But would the townsfolk ever accept him? Would Emma forgive him? With every heartbeat, he could feel the weight of change pressing down on him. Would he embrace this new path, or let the currents of his history sweep him back into isolation? The answer lingered tantalizingly close, his heart racing for what was to come. Jake stood frozen in the moment, grappling with a rush of conflicting emotions. The whispers around him felt like a storm brewing, and each scoff and sideways glance from the townspeople drummed louder in his ears. He had stumbled into a world where he was no longer a symbol of success but an embodiment of betrayal. "Why should we believe anything you say?" Emma's voice sliced through the anxiety swirling within him. The fire in her eyes was both invigorating and terrifying. As he searched for the right words, he recalled his own childhood, of sunny days filled with trust and hope, and he questioned how he had walked so far away from that. "I know I've made mistakes," he said finally, his voice a low rumble, tender yet firm. "But I'm here to fix them, not to take what's left." He took a step forward, his heart hammering against his chest. "I want to help rebuild not just businesses, but trust. The crowd reacted visibly to his admission. Some faces softened, while others hardened further with skepticism, but Emma held her ground, arms crossed defiantly. Words are just words. Show us your intentions, Jake. Make us believe you care. He took a deep breath, the weight of expectation pressing on him. It wasn't enough to just say he wanted to help, he needed his actions to speak volumes. What if we started with a community cleanup day? He proposed. I'll organize it, bring in supplies, and help with the physical work too. Let us restore what we can. Together. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The suggestion hung in the air, heavy with potential. Jake could see a flicker of hope in a few faces. Was it possible they could believe in him again? Emma uncrossed her arms, disbelief washing over her features mixed with an ember of curiosity. And why would you do that? The challenge remained in her eyes, but now there was a spark of something else. Could it be a hint of softness? Because I need you to see that I'm more than just a businessman. I'm a human being capable of change, he replied, feeling the truth of his words resonate deep inside him. This wasn't just about the townspeople, this was a necessary step in his own redemption. Jake glanced around, lingering on the faces of those he had unintentionally hurt. I'll give my time, my resources. I want you to hold me accountable. Emma considered this for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she stepped closer, her expression a mix of wariness and intrigue. All right, we'll give you a chance. But if you try to slip away again, I promise you won't be welcomed back. His heart surged with unexpected gratitude. Deal, he said, a smile breaking the tension for the first time. As they began discussing how to pull the event together, Jake felt a surge of excitement. Hope swelled within him, a promise of new beginnings and shared dreams. Yet, even as plans took shape, shadows of doubt flickered at the edges of his mind. Could he really transform in a place that held so many memories of his failures? Would the community embrace a man who had once turned his back on them? Jake knew he had a long road ahead, filled with challenges and scrutiny. And there, in that small town hall, he realized that while rebuilding trust would be a monumental task, it was one he was finally ready to face, not just for them, but for himself. But as the planning continued, one unanticipated voice arose from the back of the room, trembling with emotion. I just don't know if we can trust you again. The weight of that sentiment began to settle heavily in the room, resistant and unforgiving. Would Jake be able to demonstrate that trust could be rebuilt, or was this merely the beginning of a journey that would unravel more than he ever expected? Jake felt the heaviness in the words of that voice. It was like a dark cloud had settled over the room, threatening to eclipse the small glimmer of hope he had just ignited. He took a moment, letting the silence wash over him. The uncertainty, the fear, even the resentment, it all hung thick in the air. He could see Emma's expression harden again, the flicker of softness quickly extinguished. She glanced around, gauging how the crowd absorbed the doubt that just rippled through them. Jake's stomach twisted. How could he turn this around? Trust isn't given freely, it's earned, Jake finally said, his voice firm but filled with humility. It was true. He felt it as much as anyone. I know that now. I will work hard to earn your trust. But I can't do it alone. The murmurs kicked back in, voices overlapping with hesitations and fears. What if this is just a ploy? Someone shouted from the back. You think you can come here, with all that money, and make things right? Jake felt the sting of that comment, but it was fair. No, he said, shaking his head. I don't expect that. I should be never believed my own success meant I could forget where I came from. I thought I could just walk away from this town, from all of you, but I was wrong. Those words hung in the air, a kind of vulnerability that seemed to seep through the cracks of the collective skepticism. Emma looked at him intently, searching for the truth in his eyes. Jake took a deep breath, stepping further into the light, keeping his gaze steady. I'll be here, not just for a single day of cleanup. I want to learn. I want to understand what you've gone through and listen to your stories. I want to hear what you want from me. The corners of the room began to shift as some people leaned in, curious. The challenge had been laid down, and Jake knew it would take more than just words to continue down this path. He needed to make choices that aligned with every promise he was making to them. Let us schedule the cleanup for next weekend, Emma said, her voice breaking the tension. If you're serious about this, we want you to put in the effort, sweat alongside us. Jake nodded vigorously. Absolutely. The thrill surged once more in his veins. He could do this. They would see. As the meeting wrapped up, the crowd gradually dispersed, conversations bubbling as they left, some looking a little less burdened than before. Emma lingered behind, her expression conflicted. Hey, I didn't say it would be easy, she cautioned, stepping away from the group. You have a lot to prove, and some folks might not warm up as quickly as others. I get that. It's okay, Jake replied, a hint of softness returning to his features. All I ask for is the chance to show you. At that moment, in the parking lot under the fading sunlight, there was an electricity in the air possibility. Jake felt it tangling with his hope, anchoring him. Maybe he wouldn't just be rebuilding trust, maybe he would discover a new part of himself along the way. As they parted, a nagging worry crept into his mind. What if he let them down again? Could he endure the fallout if this didn't turn out the way he hoped? With a final glance over his shoulder, he promised himself this was just the beginning. Soon enough, he would dive into the cleanup, the heart of this endeavor. But deep down, he knew there was more at stake than just reputation. It was redemption. The very thought sent a shiver down his spine. Was he ready to face the shadows of his past and forge ahead into a new future? And as he walked away, suddenly he felt the weight of something intangible yet profound shift within him. What if, just what if, in those transformations and struggles, he found not just redemption but something he had overlooked in chasing success? Something that could change everything. Jake spent the next week in a whirlwind of anticipation and anxiety. Each morning, he woke early, his mind racing with thoughts of how he would prove himself. He started mapping out plans for the cleanup event, figuring out supplies, and gathering a team. But no matter how organized he tried to be, doubts snaked their way into his thoughts. What if they didn't show up? What if he messed up again? As Saturday drew closer, he drove through town, glimpsing familiar landmarks from his childhood. The old diner, the faded movie theater, the park where he played. They all felt like memories locked away in a chest once vibrant, now dulled by neglect and time. He caught sight of Emma at the community center, organizing lists of volunteers and supplies. She was in her element, focused and determined. Something in her demeanor ignited a spark inside Jake. He parked and approached her, feeling a mix of admiration and intimidation. Need a hand? He offered, trying to project confidence. Emma looked up, her eyes searching his. We've got everything mostly under control, she replied, but there was a slight softness in her tone. Still, I wouldn't turn down the extra help. They worked alongside each other, filling bags with trash bags and organizing tools. The chatter of others filled the air, busily preparing for the influx of volunteers. As they worked together, Jake found himself sharing snippets of his past, the struggles he faced growing up, and why he had taken the path he did. It felt good to open up, to share the truth. You really think you can keep this promise? Emma asked, wiping sweat off her brow as she glanced at him. There wasn't judgment in her tone, just curiosity. I have to, Jake said, locking his eyes with hers. I can't keep avoiding the past. I need this. Tension crackled between them, fragile yet electric. For a moment, they were two people stripped of titles and wealth, just people trying to connect. Later that afternoon, volunteers started arriving. Jake watched with nervous energy as familiar faces stepped out of their cars. Some smiled, while others eyed him skeptically. He greeted each one, determined to show them he was serious. It was a mix of shaking hands and awkward small talk. But little by little, conversations began to flow. Bringing people together felt like a balm. The atmosphere shifted from curiosity to camaraderie. Laughter and chatter filled the air like music, and as Jake interacted, he felt walls breaking down. Suddenly, he wasn't just the billionaire who abandoned his roots, he was Jake, just a guy trying to make things right. Hours passed, filled with physical effort and heartfelt exchanges. They filled dumpsters with debris, and painted fences with fresh colors. The sense of community was palpable, alive in ways Jake had forgotten. Yet, even as he immersed himself, the anticipatory pulse of hope was laced with fear. Would this last? As the sun made its descent, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, a wave of satisfaction washed over him. Exhausted but exhilarated, Jake looked over the small mountain of progress they'd made. He felt lighter, almost free. He turned to find Emma, who was looking at him with something he couldn't quite place. "Maybe you're not just about the money after all," she said softly, laughter dancing in her eyes. "But it's only the first step." Her words echoed in his heart. He wanted to say more, wanted to bridge the gap forming in his chest. Just then, an elderly woman approached them. "Jake, dear," she called, pulling him from his thoughts. "I remember when you used to help us out in the same way as a kid. It's good to see you back." His chest tightened. Memories flooded back, simple moments of giving. Could it be he was rediscovering that part of himself? The one he had buried under ambition and success. "It feels good," he admitted, searching the crowd. Then he caught Emma's gaze again. "It feels really good." But before he could dwell on the rush he felt, a tension emerged from the crowd. There, at the edge of the gathering, stood a figure from his past, one he had never expected to see again. "Jake," the voice called out, and as the recognition hit his core, his heart sank. He wasn't sure he was ready for this moment. Would he be strong enough to continue on this path? Or would the shadows of his past pull him back in? The future just became a lot more complicated. Jake's heart raced, a mix of dread and disbelief wrapping around him like a snake tightening its grip. The voice was unmistakable. It belonged to someone he hadn't seen in years, someone from a chapter of his life he thought he had closed for good. "Is that really you?" she continued, stepping into the fading light, her outline wavered as the sun dipped lower. The crowd around them fell silent, eyes darting between the two. He felt every gaze burning into him. "Megan?" The name slipped from his lips, heavy with memories he thought he'd buried. Megan, his childhood friend. Their paths had once intertwined like vines, only to be ripped apart by circumstances he could hardly remember. The ache of nostalgia washed over him, rich with bittersweet memories. "I can't believe you're back here," she said, eyes wide with surprise and uncertainty. Jake forced a smile, but it felt strained. "Yeah. I'm trying to do something good for the community," he said, glancing around nervously. "You know, give back." "You mean the same community you left behind?" she replied, a hint of accusation in her tone. The air thickened between them. Jake could feel Emma's gaze piercing him, filled with questions unasked. He stepped forward, blocking the whispers of the crowd pressing in like a thick fog. "Listen, I know I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to make it right. I really am." Megan took a breath, her expression softening slightly. "What happened, Jake? We all thought you'd never come back after I left." The words hung in the air, raw and honest. He knew the story well, how he chased money while the town faded behind him. "I thought it would be easier to forget. But it wasn't." A flicker of understanding crossed her face, but it quickly faded. "And now you're planning a cleanup? That's a start, I guess. But is that really enough?" Jake felt his chest tighten. "It has to be." Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the tension eased. But the weight of her words loomed. Could he truly make amends? "Here we go." Emma broke in, her bright smile cutting through the heavy atmosphere. "Megan, I'm Emma. We're planning something special for the town. We've got a real chance to make a difference together. Megan turned her attention to Emma, her skepticism fading. Really? Absolutely. Emma replied, her enthusiasm infectious. This place deserves to be beautiful again. We could use all the help we can get. Jake watched the two women connect. Their energy seemed to spark something in the group, lifting spirits as people began to chatter again. But he felt adrift, the current of doubt pulling him under. What if this isn't enough? He thought, his mind spiraling. Megan turned back to him, her demeanor shifting. You need to focus more than just cleaning, Jake. You need to reconnect with the people you left behind. It won't be easy. They remember. I know, he whispered, feeling the gravity of her words. I'm trying to figure it all out. Emma stepped closer, like a lifeline thrown into tumultuous waters. We're all learning here, Jake. That's the point, right? We take small steps, together. Megan's expression softened. Then show them who you really are beyond the money. Be honest. Be vulnerable. They want to believe in you again. Jake nodded, the challenge igniting something within him. He could feel the knot of uncertainty slowly loosening, replaced by a flicker of hope. As they started discussing ideas for the cleanup, laughter began to flow again. Yet, the weight still rested on his shoulders. Then, with a look of determination, he turned back to Emma and Megan. You're right. I have to show them. But just as the plan seemed to solidify, a sudden holler rang out from across the park. Look out! Head spun around. Jake's stomach dropped as he noticed a loose board from the nearby dock crumble beneath a child who was racing toward the water. Without thinking, he sprang into action, heart pounding in his chest like a drum, the lesson of rediscovering himself colliding with the instinct to protect. In that moment, he felt the eyes of both women on him. But would he soar or fall? Jake took a breath. The answer lay in the racing moments ahead. The lines of his past were merging into something new. Could he trust himself to embrace them? Jake lunged forward, the world around him blurring into a background hum. Time seemed to stretch out as he sprinted, feet pounding against the ground, muscles screaming. All he could focus on was the child, the small figure about to plunge headfirst into a murky fate. As he reached the edge of the dock, the very board that had betrayed its weight cracked ominously beneath him. No! He shouted, arms outstretched. But his voice barely broke through the panic. He dove, hands grasping for the child's flailing arm. For a split second, everything was silent, like a breath held too long. Then, with a desperate grip, Jake caught the kid just as tiny feet slipped off the edge. They tumbled to the ground, hard and breathless. The child's terrified eyes met Jake's, and in that instant, fear was replaced by wide-eyed wonder. Relief flooded Jake, mingling with a surge of adrenaline. They rolled back onto solid ground, safe yet breathless, the chill of the water a mere whisper away. Are you okay? He gasped, pulling the kid close, checking for injuries. The child nodded, a slow smile creeping onto his face, colors of innocence brightening the moment. The crowd around them erupted, cheers and applause, a thunderous wave crashing against Jake's ears. But to him, it felt like a fog. He barely registered who was congratulating him or who was worried. Emma rushed to his side, her face lit up with a mix of pride and concern. You did it. That was amazing. She exclaimed, beaming. Megan joined them, stepping closer, the flurry of emotions in her eyes a complex mix of admiration and something deeper. You really acted without thinking, Jake. That was impressive. Just instinct, he replied, the truth almost surprising himself. Today was about cleaning up the town, but maybe he was starting with the most crucial cleanup of all, his own instincts, his precious connections to others. People began to gather around, sharing stories of the close call. Parents held their kids a little tighter, friends clapped backs and patted shoulders. Normalcy was returning, but that transient rush elevated Jake in a way he hadn't expected. He felt seen not as the wealthy man who fled, but as someone who could dive headfirst into danger for a stranger. Maybe this is what I need to do, he thought, heart still racing. Not just organize a cleanup, but show these people I can still care. Megan's voice cut through his internal dialogue. This is why you came back, isn't it? To be part of something bigger again? Jake hesitated, absorbing her words. I think so. I want to be more than I was. I want to. Before he could finish, her expression shifted. Then you have to lean into it. Don't run from it. Show people how much you care, even if it's just one child at a time. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of challenge and hope. The laugh of children and the warm sunlight wrapping around them began to feel hopeful. As Jake scanned the gathering crowd, a flicker of recognition danced in the air. These were faces of the past intermingled with potential future: the local baker, a teacher, the woman who used to cut his hair, and even the town bookshop owner. They were all there, all watching him, waiting for him to step up. And just like that, something inside him solidified. He took a deep breath, adrenaline ebbing, replaced by a newfound clarity. All right, let us do this, he said, his voice steadying. He turned to Emma and Megan, their eyes filled with anticipation, and shared a resolute nod with both of them. He could feel something vital surging within: purpose, connection, the urge to rebuild. Let us start right away, Emma said, her enthusiasm sparking like fireworks. But as excitement bubbled, a sudden unease crept back in. What if this moment was just the first step of many missteps yet to come? What if diving into this quest for redemption meant exposing himself to more than he anticipated? Just as those thoughts settled in, a voice pierced the hope, shouting from the back of the crowd. But what if you can't do it, Jake? What if they'll never forgive you? Jake's heart sank, the echoes of doubt crashing over him. All eyes turned in his direction, waiting for his response. What could he possibly say? In that moment, he realized this was just the beginning of not only cleaning the town, but also cleaning out the fear that gripped his past. The path ahead was daunting, but maybe, just maybe, he could turn darkness into light. As he came face to face with the critical moment ahead, the question lingered: could he truly lay his heart bare, or was the risk of rejection too great? With those thoughts spinning faster than he could voice them, Jake stepped forward, ready for whatever would come next. Jake swallowed hard, the weight of the crowd's eyes pressing down on him like a brick wall. The voice that had challenged him echoed in his mind, pulling at insecurities he thought he had buried deep. What if he truly couldn't do it? What if all this change crumbled into nothing? Listen, he began, the tremor in his voice surprising him. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've let people down. The crowd fell silent, every open ear hanging on his words. But today, I want to try. Not just for me, but for all of you. We can turn this town around. Together. As Jake spoke, he felt something shift within him, like a storm beginning to clear. He didn't have all the answers, but the sincerity in his voice must have struck a chord. He looked into Emma's encouraging blue eyes, and then at Megan, who nodded subtly, urging him onward. He could do this. He wasn't alone after all. What's the first step? Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. Jake paused for a moment. It felt like a loaded question, but one that ignited a spark of creativity in him. Let us organize a cleanup. We can gather supplies, fix up this dock, and make it safe for everyone: kids, families, for us. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of support washing over him. The doubts that had hounded him a moment ago slowly began to recede. If this was just an idea born from desperation, it felt like a real foundation beneath his feet. Let us meet tomorrow, Jake continued, heart racing. Bring friends, bring family. We'll set a date and plan everything out. It's time we show each other what this town really means. The response was electric. People started clapping and shouting, enthusiasm spreading like wildfire. Suddenly, children were darting through the crowd, high-fiving him, mothers were giving him grateful smiles, and men from years past were nodding in approval. But as the applause washed over him, Jake felt a shadow flicker at the edges of his newfound resolve. His heart raced not just from the excitement of the crowd but from knowing he still had to confront the lingering ghosts of his past. Was one cleanup enough to erase the weight of his previous decisions? Directly in front of him, a woman pushed through the throng, a familiar figure with an unmistakable face. It was Lila, the town's former mayor, her expression unreadable as she stepped closer. The distance between them felt fraught with history, their last encounter echoing painfully in his mind. "Jake," she started, her voice calm yet firm. "You think a day of cleanup can change everything? What about the years of neglect?" Jake's heart thudded again, this time heavier than before. She was right. Cleaning the docks wouldn't erase the past. The community wouldn't just forget the man he once was. But beneath the weight of her words, Jake felt a flicker of hope again. "No, Lila, it's not about just one day. It's about starting something real, something we can sustain. I need to show you all that I can be better." The crowd quieted, tension thick in the air. Lila studied him, her brow furrowed. "You want to lead? Then show us that you're committed to stay." With that, she turned away, leaving the question hanging like a challenge. As he stood there, the world buzzing around him, doubt returned like an unwelcome friend. Could he truly commit? Could he stay? Jake glanced at Emma and Megan, whose faces were alight with determination and faith. It was time to sort through the pieces of his past and carve a path forward. But could he really make it happen? Just as it seemed the crowd's energy elevated him, the reality hit hard. The journey he had just begun wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon. And so much still lay ahead. With every heartbeat echoing with resolve, Jake took a step back to the edge of the dock, a metaphorical precipice. He wasn't just plunging into the depths for someone else, he was diving in for himself, hoping to find the strength in vulnerability. With the echoes of the crowd bolstering him, he called out, "Together, we can do this. Let us reclaim our town." The uncertain cheers rang out louder this time, a blend of hope and suspicion mingling in the air. But he knew the stakes had changed. This wasn't just about a single cleanup, it was a chance for redemption, for connection, for love. Could he rise to the occasion and truly earn their trust? As he stood there, the weight of multiple eyes upon him, one thought settled in the back of his mind: how high was the price for redemption, and was he ready to pay it? The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting warm oranges and pinks across the sky as Jake stepped off the dock, still feeling the echo of his words vibrate in the air. The remnants of that powerful moment clung to him, fueling a mixture of anxiety and courage. "Let us do this," he whispered to himself, his breath shaky. There were so many things he needed to face, but for once, optimism had a tight grip on his heart. Emma and Megan joined his side, their expressions a blend of excitement and concern. "You were amazing out there, Jake." Megan beamed, her eyes shining like the twilight sky. "They believe in you." "Yeah," Emma added, a soft smile dancing on her lips. "But what about Lila? Are you really ready to face what she said? This is just the beginning." Jake nodded, staring across the water where the silhouettes of the boats bobbed gently. "I know I need to prove to her that I'm serious. I can't let the past define me. I've got to show everyone I'm different." "But how?" Emma pressed, wanting him to explore the depths of his own doubts. "You can't change what happened, you can only change how you move forward." As they walked along the edge of the dock, a little girl ran past, her laughter like a sweet bell chiming through the air. Jake watched her, feeling a pang of longing. He thought of the children who played here, the lives intertwined in that simple space. They deserved better than what had come before. "Maybe I'll start with small steps," he said, an idea crystallizing. "I could talk to Lila, see if she'll help me get the community together." If she sees I'm trying, maybe she'll share her insights. That sounds like a good plan, Megan replied, nodding. Not just good, Emma corrected gently. It's brave. But it'll take more than words to show you're committed. With that, the trio reached the parking lot, where the fading light cast long shadows of their figures. Jake knew that the transformation he dreamed of for the town would require a transformation within himself as well. He needed more than just a friendly chat with Lila, he needed to face the truth of who he had been and reconcile that with who he wanted to be. Jake glanced back at the dock, his heart heavy and hopeful. What if I set up regular meetings? Open forums? Give people a voice in rebuilding? I like it, Emma encouraged. That could really help people feel involved. Jake could almost see it now, people gathering, sharing ideas, blending their hopes into something real. He needed that spark to ignite community spirit, something to ensure they were on this journey together. Let us do it, he declared, resolve burning bright in his chest. We'll empower each other. I'll talk to Lila first thing tomorrow. Megan grinned, her energy infectious. And you can count on us for help. We'll be there to support you. As night fell, they made their way back, the weight of what lay ahead pressing against him. The thought of Lila's challenge stayed on his mind, gnawing at his spirit. Could he really commit himself? Yet beneath the uncertainty lingered a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, a flicker of worth. For so long, he'd felt consumed by past failures. This was the chance to rewrite that narrative. And as they reached his front porch, Jake glanced at his friends with a newfound confidence. You really think I can do this? Absolutely, Emma said firmly, her voice unwavering. That night, Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling, anticipation mixed with anxiety. He had taken the first steps into the storm of change, but the journey ahead was still muddy and uncertain. Tomorrow he would step into Lila's world, a woman who held the power to either reinforce his fears or inspire his transformation. As he drifted off to sleep, one question danced through his mind: would he find the courage to unlock the door to his past and move into the light of a new future? The dawn would hold the answers he sought and perhaps, even a new beginning. As the sun rose the next day, painting the world in soft hues of gold, Jake's heart raced with anticipation. He lay in bed, the thoughts of yesterday mingling with the sounds of morning. Birds chirped outside, a gentle reminder of life awakening anew. Today was different. Today, he would confront his past and reach out to Lila. He stretched and shook off the remnants of sleep. Each movement felt deliberate, as if he was shedding layers of doubt and anxiety. He remembered his friends' words from the night before, their faith in him serving as a beacon of hope. After a quick breakfast, just coffee and stale toast, he slipped into a worn sweatshirt that had seen better days. It felt like a second skin, comfortable and familiar, yet he knew it also reminded him of a time he wanted to escape. Jake paused in front of the mirror, adjusting his hair and catching a glimpse of the man he hoped to be. I can do this, he whispered, speaking to his reflection as if it were an old friend. Determined, he made his way to the community center. It stood at the heart of town, a place where children played and families gathered, yet recently it had become a symbol of neglect. Lila would be there, ready to challenge him again, and he was ready to stand up to that challenge. As Jake approached the entrance, he saw a few familiar faces, mothers with strollers, teenagers hanging out, and the elderly enjoying the morning sun. He felt the weight of their gazes, their curiosity palpable. His heart thudded loudly in his chest. Could he really bring these people together? Could he make a difference? Inside, the air was filled with chatter and laughter. Jake spotted Lila near the front, deep in conversation with a group of interested parents. He took a moment to observe her. She had an ease about her, a natural ability to connect with others. The way she laughed and listened drew people in like moths to a flame. Gathering his resolve, he walked over, his palms a bit clammy. Hey, Lila. He managed, his voice slightly shaky. She turned, her surprise quickly morphing into a welcoming smile. Jake. I didn't expect to see you here so soon. I know we talked, and I wanted to actually put some ideas into motion. Maybe we could start by meeting with the community. His words tumbled out, eager yet tentative. Lila's eyebrows lifted in interest as she leaned closer. That's a fantastic idea. We need people involved, especially after everything that's happened. Jake felt a surge of confidence. I was thinking we could hold regular meetings, let everyone share their thoughts, maybe even brainstorm how to rejuvenate this place. Count me in, she said, looking impressed. Communication is key, and the community needs a platform to express their needs and ideas. It's a great start. As they spoke, the fear that had lingered in Jake's heart began to fade. Lila showed him not just potential but the spark that could ignite change within their community. Together, they sketched out a plan on a notepad, the pages filling with ideas and aspirations, an open forum, community projects, all centered around hope and unity. More people joined as they brainstormed, drawn in by the excitement in the air. Parents, kids, and even some older folks began to contribute their thoughts. Jake felt the warmth of their support, blending with the realization that what he feared most, facing judgment, had transformed into something beautiful. Yet as lunch rolled around, a nagging thought tugged at the back of his mind. Would he be able to follow through? What if he stumbled? Determined to silence that voice, Jake shared his personal story of struggle and his desire for redemption. He opened up, vulnerability poured from him, and for the first time, he felt truly seen. When he finished, a hush fell over the crowd, a collective moment of understanding. Lila's smile widened, a spark of pride lighting up her eyes. You've already made a difference, Jake. It takes courage to admit the past, but you're proving it's possible to change. As the meeting wrapped up, Jake felt a blend of exhilaration and fear. The seeds of change had been planted, but now, he had to nurture them, even if that meant facing the storm of his insecurities. He exited the center, breathing in the fresh air, the sunlight warmer than before. A part of him felt lighter, buoyed by shared dreams and communal strength. Just as he was about to leave, he heard Lila call his name. Jake, can we talk? His heart skipped a beat. What could she want to say next? What if she sensed his doubts? Would she understand his fears, or was there more at stake than he realized? Jake turned to face Lila, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. He had come so far, but the uncertainty of what lay ahead still clung heavily to his heart. Sure, Lila. What's up? She looked thoughtful, a hint of seriousness behind her warm smile. I want to commend you. It's not easy to step back into a place of hurt and challenge yourself. But I also need you to know that actions speak louder than words. Jake nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I get that. What I said today wasn't just for show. I genuinely want to help. But I know it'll take time. Lila's eyes softened, her expression encouraging yet firm. It does. But don't forget, you will be watched. People will be waiting for you to stumble. It won't be easy to earn their trust again, especially after everything we've been through. I'm ready for that, he replied, his voice brimming with newfound confidence. This is more than a cleanup, it's about rebuilding connections and trust. I can't change the past, but I can control how I move forward. Lila smiled, a hint of approval shining through. Good. I can see you've put thought into this. Just be honest and consistent. That will mean everything. Jake felt a rush of gratitude. Thanks, Lila. I really appreciate this. As they talked, a sense of urgency flowed through him. He had to act, to show the commitment he had just promised. What if we organized a second meeting for next weekend? Invite more people, share what we're planning, and just have open conversations about their needs. Absolutely. Let us get that message out there, Lila agreed. The town needs to feel involved again. They discussed logistics, sharing ideas for engaging the community. Jake felt a spark of excitement ignite within. Every word exchanged felt like another step toward making a real difference. As their conversation wrapped up, Lila placed her hand on his shoulder. "Remember, Jake. Transparency and humility will be key. I believe in you, but never underestimate the journey ahead." "Thank you, Lila. That means way more than I can say," he replied, feeling the warmth of her support radiate through him. Jake left the meeting, his heart lighter and purpose more defined. He walked through the town, observing the familiar sights, but something had changed. Suddenly, it felt alive: the laughter of children, the chatter of neighbors, the scent of fresh flowers from the local market. Each step he took was one towards showing them that he was serious about his commitment. Rebuilding wouldn't just be physical, it was about reconnecting with his roots, reclaiming his humanity, and rebuilding trust one interaction at a time. Over the next week, he worked tirelessly on plans for the upcoming meeting. He reached out to people personally, inviting them to share their thoughts, ideas, and experiences. Emails, flyers, and heartfelt conversations filled his days. Jake could hardly believe how much energy bubbled within him. The fear began to morph into something tangible: hope. When the day of the meeting arrived, the community center buzzed with anticipation. Familiar faces filed in, and Jake could feel the blend of excitement and skepticism in the air. He took a moment to collect himself, reminding himself of every piece of advice Lila had given. As he stood before the crowd, Jake felt a surge of vulnerability but also strength. "Thank you all for coming. I know I have a long way to go, but I want to hear from you. Your experiences, your needs. Let us create something together. This town deserves all of us." His words ignited a spark, and the reaction was electric. Questions poured in, suggestions for improvements flew around the room, and community spirit blossomed. Little by little, connections were reformed, and he felt walls crumbling. The laughter, the camaraderie, it felt like home. After hours of sharing and planning, a sense of belonging surged within Jake. He was finally part of something that mattered. He was learning, growing, and embracing the chance to dive into vulnerability. And at the center of it all was Emma. She had been supporting him every step of the way, her bright smile, her unwavering belief in him. As they wrapped up, Jake approached her. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course." Emma replied, a twinkle in her eye, sensing the significance behind his words. "Thank you for being here. For believing in me." He felt his voice tremble with emotion. "I know it hasn't been easy, and I have a long way to go, but something inside has shifted. I owe you, Lila, and everyone else a new version of myself." Emma stepped closer, beaming with warmth. "You've faced your past. You're evolving. Just remember that you're not alone in this." Jake felt a tear brim in his eye, a mix of gratitude, hope, and sheer relief. "I won't forget. I promise to keep showing up." As they exchanged smiles, laughter and conversation swirled around them. The room pulsed with the energy of possibility, many voices united toward a shared goal. In that moment, Jake understood redemption was not an endpoint, it was a journey. He was no longer just a billionaire out of touch with his roots. He was a man rising from the ashes of his past, stepping into the warmth of community, love, and genuine connection. And with that realization came a sense of serenity. Whatever was yet to come, he was ready to face it. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the bonds forming around him grow stronger. Beyond the horizon was a vibrant future, a promising path woven with every small step he took toward rebuilding his life and his community. Jake Morgan was becoming whole again, and the transformation was just beginning. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your thought matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the hope. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.